how are you doing today? Last day to go, and it's great because we are both organizers of this event. So it's like,
Phew. The dessert, and I hope people still have room in their cognitive tummies for desserts.
Yeah, and great. Actually, we were. Hi, Olia. Hi.
Hi.
Hi there. Good morning.
Morning. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, just a second. Yeah, I'm joining at the beginning of your session just to be able to experience it and, just to get ready myself as well. So,
It's
yeah.
great.
Perfect.
So
Good to
today
see you.
is you are united by one directional work, like coaching, and it wasn't planned. Just the main criteria was the timing, and it was great that you all
Exactly.
could
Yeah.
join. Guys, can you hear? Can you see us? Can you type in the chats? Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So
And,
I will introduce.
and please let us know where you're joining from, which city, country, and where you're based right now. And who do you teach? Who's your target audience, and what type of courses do you usually teach? That would be good to know, just some exchange. And yeah, so you can do that in chat. And there is the section, the Q&A section, and it's a separate one. So you can leave your questions there, right? So we don't miss them. We'll be monitoring the chat as well, but just in case. Yeah.
So we've got 11 attendees right now. I guess also joining, and I see that on YouTube, the first day has most of watches. So people like watch for like later and maybe at higher speed, but still that's great that this event is not in vain, and it's valuable for Ukrainian teachers. And actually we have not only Ukrainian teachers, I also saw foreigners among attendees. It's great. I will introduce you. I've known you, Natalie, for 4 years or something, and first I was admired by your level of just cognitive ability. I mean, you can talk about different topics and a pretty high level. It feels like you know everything. I remember those speaking parts on CPE. Another thing, I guess one of your biggest strengths is that you see the strengths of others, and you give people this push to develop and maybe I'm also talking about myself, and to believe in themselves. You're a great force behind a lot of communities. It's not only about ESP and ESP World. No, it's about other ones, because I remember you also organized the conferences in Kyiv, in Lviv. So I really like and admire your skill to organize people in groups, кружки по интернету, yes, and light this I don't know, this belief in themselves, and this is what I really value you for. And thank you for being with me, and thank you for being my partner in this project, because I do.
Thank you.
So off to you, I guess. Yeah.
Well, thank you for this introduction. Yeah, feel flattered on one hand, but on the other hand, I know it's well deserved. Just today in the morning, I talked to one of our speakers, Sasha Ramenko, and again, this thing came up that C is for collaboration. It's not for competition, and collaboration is key right now. I do believe in collaboration between people, because it's not about addition when we join forces. It's about multiplication of the effect that we have on each other and on the people we work with. And when we had the Super Teachers Summit in Lviv, we talked about the superpowers that people have, the participants, the speakers. And I often say that my superpower is, just as Yola mentioned, it's seeing the power of others and seeing the opportunities, and then connecting the dots, the opportunity and the person who will benefit from it.
So I guess coaching works here. Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. So yeah, and I'll just say it once again. I've said it so many times over this week that this event is also about giving Ukrainian and not only Ukrainian teachers a chance to see the types of topics that are brought to you by TEFL. And we really want to inspire everyone to try, not just go there as participant, but submit your proposals, give it a try. I mean, anyone who's got teaching experience and who is capable of thinking and reflecting, and I mean, every teacher is capable of that. Everyone has something to share. And the most valuable learning is the learning that happens when teachers share their practice with other teachers. It's not the theory. It's not the courses that you take. It's the discussion and the showcase. So yeah, please get inspired, get ready, and give it a try. Not only ITEFL, any conference, just give it a try.
Yeah, so you may start.
Yes, I'll be sharing my screen now. So I'll be hiding behind my presentation. Okay, here we go. Right. I hope you can see it all right. You should be able to. So this is what we are going to talk about VUCA English in the VUCA world. Few words about me. Well, I'll mention really nice things. Now some, I don't know, technical things. What I do, I work with grown-up learners, and I work with business English and English for professional communication. So it could be ESP, English for specific purposes. Also cross-cultural trainings, cross-cultural communication, a lot of pronunciation training. I love working with pronunciation. I'm a teacher trainer in Manner. I hold several certifications in language coaching, and I even share one of the certifications with Ola. We're both neurolanguage coaches. I'm also a board member at ILCA, International Language Coaching Association. What else? I am a certified life coach, and I'm about to get my accreditation from ICF, hopefully, if I pass the exam. Yeah, lots of other things, but let's just dive in. Oh, you'll have those later. On the agenda today, I'm going to talk about the world we live in, right? And some of the features of this world, and as well the features of the ELT world. And we'll talk about VUCA English. And by the way, drop me a plus in chat if you have heard this, if you have seen this abbreviation before, VUCA. And I'll offer you a working model that should be or could be useful for teachers working in unstable contexts, in the environments that are constantly changing. And I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to give you like very specific tiny little tools, because you all have them. You know the methodology. I mean, anyone who's been teaching for some time knows how to work with texts, vocabulary, anything. But I will give you a kind of framework that helps shape a very specific mindset and serves as a pillar in moving forward, hopefully. Okay, so let's go. The world we live in. Have you ever seen this abbreviation? Yeah. Do you know what this stands for? The SPOD world. Okay. So the SPOD world is the world of our parents. Look at this. It was steady, and not just parents, I mean, for years and years before that. Steady, predictable, ordinary, and definite. So what does that mean? We knew what to expect. I mean, not we, not us. It's not about us. The generations before us. They knew very well what to expect. Okay? And they knew what will happen. School, university, what next? Job, family, and so on. But we don't have that world anymore. What has come to replace it? Let's see. Okay. VUCA. Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. This is the world we have right now, and this is the world we live in. Some scholars say that this is what it is. Does that look like something you're experiencing? Yeah, again, you can just drop me plus, minus. Let me see. Do you recognize these features in the world you live in? Absolutely true. Yeah. We don't know what to expect, right? We don't know what's going to happen. And the complexity seems to be growing and growing. Now, on top of that, some people say that the VUCA world is finished. And now we have the bunny world, which is brittle, anxious, nonlinear, and incomprehensible. Again, do you see any of these features in the world you're living in? Brittle. The world is brittle. Things are falling apart. The systems are falling apart. Everything seems to be so fragile right now. Incomprehensible. Yeah, just look at what's happening in the United States. Yeah, very, very strange things. And all of that makes us feel really, really anxious. Linear? No way. There's no such thing as linear development anymore. Let's move on. There's a TASI world, okay? So some people say it's TASI, some people say it's bunny, some people say that TASI has replaced bunny. Turbulent, accidental, chaotic, inimical. Whoa. Doesn't sound very good, does it? But sounds very much familiar. And yeah, inimical, really. I don't like that word, but I see that this is what's happening in the world. Now, this is the world. I'm not going to go into details about all of those worlds, but what I want you to do right now, just have a look at all of them. These are just the adjectives, but look at them and think about your teaching context. Which of these features are present there? And you might have features from each and every of these worlds. Something might be steady and predictable, and something might be chaotic. I mean, I have clients who have chaotic schedules, and sometimes the studying program, the curriculum is nonlinear. And sometimes I have people who are steady and predictable because they want a very specific set schedule. So I have different features. They're all present there. But most of the features that are present in the world of my clients and therefore are present in my teaching world are not from the SPOD board. Yeah. So, okay, this sounds a bit sad, but we are not going to be crying here. We'll be making conclusions and trying to find a way forward. Yeah. The conclusions and the, most importantly, implications for us as language trainers and language teachers. Well, we have to understand that change is constant and imperative. The world is never going to be the same, and we have no idea what's going to happen next. So, in view of that, we can no longer rely on long-term programs that have been prepared in advance, especially if you are teaching language users, right? Especially if you are teaching grown-up learners who work with the language every single day. And this means that we have to be ready to adapt to the changes in the client's context, right? So whenever the client's context is changing, we have to look at the program and make the relevant changes. And very often that means that we'll be working in the unknown. So as teachers, we often want to be 100% prepared, right? We want to know what's going to come next. We want to know what to tell our students, our clients, what to do. But very often, the clients come and they tell you, okay, today I need something completely different, right? And you have no idea what they are talking about because you are not the specialist. You're not the expert in that particular topic, but you're the expert in the language. So you have to embrace this unknown. And it sounds like something intimidating for some people, but it means that this is really a great time. It's the opportunity to create something new. We can combine the old approaches and create something that works for our clients and for us. So that means a lot of flexibility, a lot of experiments, and courage to try and test new things. Yeah. Does anyone recognize their teaching approaches in the world, especially those who work with grown-up language users? So how do we survive? These are two models, and they are not from a methodology book. They are more from the management and leadership studies, but this is the approach. One of them is like a battery, 3 A's: awareness, acceptance, adaptation, action, and evolving. So what does that mean? That means that the first thing we've got to do is to be aware of the fact that we are living in this VUCA Bani Tasi whatever world. So we have to be aware of the challenges that our clients are facing and, well, the challenges we are facing. Awareness is the first step. And then we have to accept this fact, okay? We are not going to change the world. It's impossible. We are not going to change the client's context. The context will change by itself, right? So we have to accept this, the limitations that we have, the imperfections, and the unknown that is facing us. And then we either adapt or we take action to influence, right? Depending on the context, depending on your limitations and strengths. And we need to keep evolving. And that means for teachers, we evolve in several ways, okay? So usually teachers work with what? They need to know the subject, the methodology to deliver the material to the students, and they need the non-methodological knowledge, like some knowledge in psychology, in teaching the appropriate age groups, in coaching, the knowledge of the world. I mean, a well-rounded person. So we need to keep evolving to be able to satisfy the needs of our clients. One approach, the other approach is from VUCA leadership. So basically, we replace the volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous with vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. And I'll explain in detail what it means. So this, again, is from leadership, but I see how you can apply this to teaching English. And this is very much in line with the coaching approach. First of all, we come with the vision. And this is about having a clear or more or less clear picture of a desirable future. What it means for us as language teachers, we need to know what the student, the client, wants to achieve. So, and it's not about having a certain level of English or speaking like a native, because it's very vague and it's a fuzzy goal. We need a very specific goal. What do they want? How will this learning impact their life, and what changes it will bring in the bigger picture? And it's all about this ESP thing, you know, where you have to work with non-language goals of your clients, where language is only a little component. Language is a tool. So what does your client want? They want to present, right? For example, at a conference, like we just did. What do they need for that? Well, they need lots of things. They need the expertise, they need the presentation skills, they need the confidence, and they need the language. So which part of that is related to language training? And you work on that part. But when you see the bigger picture, when you know the details of your client's context, it's so much easier to help them. So this vision, again, in coaching, this would be about the final goal, the contracting. Understanding. Yeah, so where you have uncertainty in the VUCA world, we can offer some understanding. At least we can look for some understanding. What is understanding in the context of language teaching? It is the understanding of your client's context, of the way this context influences their goals, the learning process. If the person has lots of business trips, you understand immediately. You will need to use asynchronous learning. You will need to adapt. You will need to have a flexible schedule. Yeah. So what you do, you plan for the big goal. Remember the vision, you have the vision, but you have to break this big goal down into smaller targets, into tiny steps. And on top of that, you need to see how you can get there. And you need to envisage several ways. So there's no like one way to prepare for a presentation or to learn about this particular topic, but several ways. And you have to have the flexibility. You need to think about alternatives because the world is changing. And when you have this understanding of different ways to get to the goal, your mind comes down and your clients, they come down as well because they see that, okay, there's plan A, there's plan B, and there's plan C. And if there are changes in their contexts, they will still be able to get to their goal. This is very much about systemic approach. Like there's this systemic coaching where you work with the client, not as individual, but as a part of the ecosystem. So you do work with the client, but you take into account their team, their background, their situation, and their immediate context. And anything that's happening in the context is influencing them, and you respond. So I really like taking this approach. And again, it's about mindset. So there's no such thing as a very rigid lesson plan, right? There is a goal, and there are ways to get there. And this particular lesson plan is only one of them, right? So we come we move away from something very rigid, planned to the smallest detail. And we move away from that and towards this systemic teaching and holistic approach. Okay, how does that sound to you? You can just write me something in chat to make sure for me that I haven't lost you. Now, clarity. Where you have complexity in the VUCA world, we can try and look for some clarity. And clarity is very much about simplicity. Right now, it's very, very important. One of the new emerging roles of a language teacher is materials moderator. There's so much available out there. And people who are autonomous, independent learners, they get lost and they get confused by the plethora of the materials and the resources. So our task is to help the clients select the resources and the activities that really matter and focus on them. That's what we do. So we remove the unnecessary. One more important thing is building trust. And the client needs to trust you, trust the process, and trust themselves. So it's about believing that they are capable. This is about building confidence as well. And when we talk about clarity, we also talk about the contract That means that we discuss the obligations, the responsibilities of the parties. So that is your client and you, or your client, the sponsor, right? Or the company that's paying for the lessons, and you need to know who's doing what. When you have this clarity, again, the mind comes down and it's easier to work. And remember, less is more. And this is about clarity. Do not overwhelm them. The world is so complex that the clients are happy when you can offer them at least some simplicity. Agility. What is agility? Instead of ambiguity, we can offer some agility. And this is about adaptability and modification. And I talked about this already. Basically, you have the goal, you have the vision, but you're very flexible in choosing the ways you get there. Okay? What's really important here? It's about consistency. Yeah, so you are agile, you're flexible, but there are limitations to this flexibility. You need to have this consistency, because we all know if there's no consistency, there's very little learning. And a very special culture that we need to help our clients develop. Mistakes are useful. Okay, so relax. Yeah, that's the most important thing. Calm down, relax, make mistakes, move on, adjust what you're working on, see what works, see what doesn't, make appropriate changes. How do we do that? We do it by using this model. One of the possibilities, there are lots of others, but basically, I'm not offering you here any exercises or activities because you all know how to do that. Here's just the mindset. Whenever you feel lost, like, oh gosh, my client is changing their plans, their goals, and it's like we are going in circles and not getting to their goal. This is the solution for such cases. What you need to have this contracting. You set up the relationship. You agree on the goals of the client. Yes, you can discuss them, you can modify them in the process, but you need to agree what you're working on, right? You need to go where you're heading to. The roles, the expectations, and this could also include the technical expectations, the internet connection quality and so on. Then the second stage is the exploration. And this is where you explore the situation of the client, this point A, and you go into point B, and you try to generate new ideas and options for the client. How do they get from point A to point B? Which is the third stage here. Then you move on to action. You make the plan, you implement that plan, and that means learning. And then you review, you celebrate the success, you make adjustments when needed, you analyze all the work done. So for those who are familiar with coaching, this sounds like something they already know, definitely. For those who are not, this might sound a bit strange, or maybe it doesn't sound strange, because as teachers, we do this already. Maybe we don't have the clear system, right? But we definitely do this. We discuss all of these stages. It's just that we need to make sure they are all in place. And the contracting stage is one of the most important, because this is the stage that helps you to stay on track. If you have the contracting, if you know the goals of your clients, especially those goals that lie beyond language, where language is only the tool. When we know those goals, we know the direction, right? So, and we know where we are heading. Now, here's an example of a case and how it fits into this model. And I'll just run through it real quick because I don't want to take all of your time, maybe a tiny little break before Ola's talk. So a recent case where I have a client, and the contracting stage, the client has a call or a meeting with me. And, this is where I take the first information, what they want, how they want to do it, how much time they have for English, how long they would like to work on this particular goal, and so on. And we discuss terms and conditions of cooperation. And we set the schedule. We share, like we discuss the roles, responsibilities, who's doing what. This is the contracting stage. Then I need to have the profile of the client. I discuss the language history. I do the needs analysis. Oh, we talk a lot about needs analysis. Needs analysis, it's about understanding the current situation and then the language and communication needs of the client and the outcome and the goals. Yeah, going back to contracting, they have the goal. Now, needs analysis is not the same as a placement test. Those are two very different things. When you work with ESP clients, with business English clients, it's rarely about the level of English. It's most of the time about getting the work done, regardless of the level of English they have. So I need to find out the context where my client uses English and wants to use English, what they want to work on. And here I have the topics. So she wants to work on small talk because she's not very good at that, and have more formal vocabulary because she works with native speakers and she wants to sound better. But I also need to take into account the fact that she has a lot of business trips and her work environment is fast-paced, so she's very busy. What it means for me, it means that maybe we won't have 60-minute lessons. Maybe we'll have several meetings a week, which lasts 30 to 40 minutes. So I have to take this into account and see what I can offer. Together with the client, it's a very important thing. You have to do this together with the client. If you work with grown-ups, they have to be co-creators of the learning program, of this learning path, right? Especially language users. If they come for general English, it's a totally different case. But if it's a solution-focused approach, if you work with their personalized requests, they become the co-creators. I often suggest, when I talk to teachers, I suggest choosing maybe like 2 to 3 most urgent topics and working around them. The clients might have a list of like 10, 20 topics they want to get covered. But it's very important to prioritize them and choose those that are most important, right? Sometimes those are most difficult, sometimes just most urgent. And don't choose for your client. One more thing, okay? When we work with general English, right? It's about everything. All the 4 skills and the 5th skill that Alla told us about yesterday, the viewing. But when we work with the ESP requests, with those personalized goals, we need to understand which skills the clients want to improve. And sometimes you will have let's say no reading for a while because you need to focus on something else, right? And choosing channels of communication is also an important part. How do you work with your clients? Again, flexibility here. Very often, I work in chats with my clients. All of them do practice of spontaneous speech when they record messages for me using the vocabulary we learned, or just practicing talking about whatever they see around them, to make sure that they can use language in any situation. So, that creating a little bit of stress, right, in the situation where they control things, so that when they end up in a situation where they don't control anything, they will be prepared to use English. So I do that. And when we move on to actually drafting the program, I always ask the client to establish the success criteria. So it's not just me as a teacher that, okay, I know that this student is good because they have 90 out of 100 on a test. No, the client needs to set their own criteria of success. So it could be feeling more confident, being able to talk. Even one client told me, I want to talk nonstop for like 2 minutes on this particular topic, or anything that your client has. They need to establish their success criteria. And then you can do the planning. But I suggest planning for not more than 6 sessions in advance. You need to leave this room for flexibility. And after 4 sessions, just double check with the client where they want to move on if you're working with language users. So this is what we worked on with the client. The registers, that was one of her key requests, discussing workload management, delegation, and this moved us to learning about hierarchy and delegating different cultures, because she works in this cross-cultural context. And then about anticipating conflicts and misunderstanding on the grounds of the cultural differences. And this turned out to be the most valuable part in this block of 4 sessions for her. Interestingly, because she did not mention this at first. She wanted to work on registers, and this was the topic of discussion, workload management, delegation. But we ended up getting the most value out of this final part, right? Why? How come? I followed the client, I listened to her, and I picked up what she really needed. But this doesn't happen if you have a strict plan, if you have this rigid lesson plan and you want to stick to it. Yeah, so this flexibility is very, very good. Review. When you do the review, ask your clients what they find most useful and helpful for developing the skills they want to develop. And I always ask what they want to stop doing, with what they want to keep doing. Sometimes I see that, I imagine, right? It's my imagination. This particular activity is great, but the clients don't like it. They don't see value in it. So it's worth discussing why I find it valuable and see why the client doesn't find it valuable. And then decide whether you want to keep this activity or not. The final question for grown-ups, it's a very important one. The workload or the learning load that they are ready to take up, especially those who have dynamic work environments. These are some of the things we did with the clients. So we started with this prioritizing, then was delegating, then the word wall, right? With the help of ChatGPT, I developed some of the texts, then gap fills, reading, viewing, discussing, and see lots and lots of voice messages. Combination of all of those. So to summarize the way forward, this is what I see as the emerging rules of the game in language teaching. So it's about responsive teaching and the flexibility. We have to be flexible, but at the same time, we need to keep the client's goal in mind. So we take them to the place where they want to go. Then eclecticism, both in methods and in communication channels that you use with your clients. Asynchronous learning, possible, using chat, why not? Anything that works for your client and for you. You need to feel comfortable working with those channels of communication, not just your client. Because if you feel uncomfortable, you're going to burn out sooner or later. And the final thing here, number 3, is the most important one. Get comfortable working in the unknown. Embrace the unknown and be curious. 3 questions for you. We don't have the time for them right now, but I really would like to ask you to think about them. If someone's ready to share, please type it in chat. What have you learned about your situation as a language teacher, language trainer over these 30 minutes? How will this knowledge impact your practice? How will it change it? What will you rethink? And the outcome of this meeting for you, of this little session. You will have these links in the chat in case you want to learn more. And I have a very special offer for smart branch people. I run a course. It's a quite intense 1 month course on teaching languages to grown-up learners, and I will be starting the second cohort in September. And this is about the things that lie beyond language teaching methodology. It's about coaching, it's about adult learning theories, discussing cases, a lot of practice, and most importantly, we'll be discussing your practice and trying to see how it all fits into your practice. So I have a limited number of spots available with the very, very special price for smart branch people. So if you have any questions about the course, you can ask me, and I would be happy if anyone joined out of these smart branch people. That would be it. You can connect with me on LinkedIn and on Instagram. And that's it. That was a bit of a rush, but I'm done.